Hey there, it's Heather Marquez with Action Coach MindLinks. Today we are talking a little bit about behaviors that build an empowered environment. So there's a lot of things going on in the workplace right now, and one of the biggest frustrations is that we have a lot of individuals who aren't being empowered. It's more of an enablement situation where they come to you as the leader for all the answers because they haven't necessarily been equipped with the skills to come up with the answers on their own. Now, that actually has a pretty negative impact. Although it may feel really good to come in and swoop down and save the day, one of the things that you have to remember as a leader is it's your job to help people be the heroes in their own stories. So to do that, there's a couple of things that you need to be embracing in the workforce, a couple of particular behaviors. And I'm going to warn you, it can get a little messy when you're starting to bring these behaviors in and get people on board with them. So the first one is curiosity. Are you building an environment where people are encouraged to ask why? You have to have curiosity in your work environment if you want to innovate, if you want to find new solutions, new ways of doing things. So you've got to really focus on how do we bring curiosity in, and during our meetings, during our conference calls, during the one-on-ones, how are we getting people to ask why more often? As a leader, are you setting the example by asking why more often? And sometimes it may even be why not. I had a young lady who used to bring me all kinds of ideas, and for a while, I didn't even realize it, but I was shutting her down. And one day she said, "It doesn't matter what I bring to you, you always say no." And I had to stand back and take a look at that and figure out what was causing that. And for me, it was maybe a little bit of hesitancy around embracing change. So I found a solution that worked for both of us. When she would come to me with an idea, and sometimes it was a crazy idea, I would challenge her with, "Tell me how this supports the goals and objectives of our organization." And if she could tell me that, I would start to dig a little deeper. But instead of saying, "Why should we?" it really became a conversation about why shouldn't we? Why shouldn't we try something new and do something different? Now, another behavior you have to embrace is creativity. Now, a lot of times creativity makes people just a little bit intimidated. As a matter of fact, if you sat through any of my trainings, you'll know that there's all kinds of toys on the table. We use markers with different colors because we want to really promote an environment of creativity. Creativity helps people get out of the box that they've been in for a really long time and look at things from a different perspective, look at things from different angles, and find solutions other than maybe what they would have come up with in the past. So what can you do in your current workplace to really build on creativity? Can you make some changes to your break room or to the environment that your team works in? Maybe it's taking down some of the walls or the partitions. Maybe it's taking doors off of offices, or in some cases, some companies actually have a day once a month or an hour once a week where they stop everybody from working on the normal projects and they ask them to come up with a project that's sort of a pet project of their own that's going to have a positive impact on the organization. And they give them that time that's dedicated, and the expectation is that they just play. They have some fun and they play with an idea to see where it will go. Now, another of these behaviors in order to create this really effective workplace is embracing failures. And man, I will tell you, that can be really difficult. Employees have to live in an environment where failure isn't fatal. So if somebody makes a mistake, it's not the end of the world. In most cases, you're just selling a product, you're not solving world hunger. So unless you're sending a man to the moon, in a lot of cases, failure is going to be okay. There's going to be a way around it. So how can you make failure safe in your environment? Can you give employees calculated risks where maybe they just step out of their comfort zone a tiny bit to try a new idea? Can you touch base with them often enough so that as they're taking on a big project that's completely new and outside of their comfort zone, You're helping them course correct as they go so that even if they do fail, it's not an epic confidence crushing failure. It's a failure where they've actually been able to learn. Now, that's a really good point. Failure isn't failure if you learn from it. So what else do you have built in your organization to take time to really look at and digest the failures? How do you have that post-mortem, if you will, or that after event conversation where you dig into why something went wrong and you start to think about how it can be made better? What could you have done differently in order to avoid that particular failure? And that really requires this next behavior, and that is coaching. It's not enough to just give feedback and tell somebody what they should do differently. In today's world, we have to use coaching as a skill set in order to help them course correct and navigate, but also learn how to think better so that in the future, when you're not around as a leader, maybe you're unavailable, maybe you're retired, maybe you're even taking vacation on a beautiful beach in Florida, are your employees able to think like you do? Are they able to think through a problem or an issue in the organization and come out on that issue the same side as what you would do so that we don't have double touching or rework, which costs an organization a lot of money? Many times, some of the failures come from the fact that we've followed the processes and procedures, but those processes and procedures are archaic. They've been around so long that they no longer serve us or our customers. So create an environment where you're using coaching as a skill set to bring out the best in your team, to help them come to their own conclusions, and to help them embrace things like creativity and curiosity, to get them to ask questions. Now, again, as I said in the beginning, this can get really messy and you have to be okay with that. But what really happens when you're doing this is you create a workplace where innovation is a way of life. And right now, things are changing at the drop of a hat. They are changing faster than they ever have in the history of our world. So you have to be able to embrace innovation if you're going to stay on top of your competition and on top of this game around taking care of your customers and taking care of your people. Thanks for tuning in. Have a terrific day.